I just want to ask something that came from Jason Overstreet, who's a representative from 42nd District up in Whatcom. And he said, and I just want to get your comment about it, he said, water will be the weapon they use to force us off our lands and into the cities. Now, how true do you think that is?
Very.
Very true? That's conspiracy type stuff, though.
It's completely and totally true. You see it in eastern Washington where they're shutting down the irrigation districts. You see it here. You can't build in rural Skagit County. We have a comprehensive plan put together, Growth Management Act. Ed worked on it back 30 years ago, where it says we're going to allow 20% of the growth in rural areas and 80% in the urban areas. And the Department of Ecology has come in and said, no, Skagit County, you cannot control your own land use. We are going to, and you will have 0% in rural, and it's all got to be in the cities. That's exactly what they're trying to do.
Okay. John?
Remember, you guys, that amending a permit, a flow, or any water-related thing provides the opportunity to review the entire permit as if it were a new one. It's very important in permitting law that if the Carpenter Creek Basin, one of, Zach tells me, 24 or 26 in the in-stream flow rule, that is, how many miles did we say? 12.37 miles below the measuring point that they can't measure if it were there, and it's in the tidally affected area, 6 or 8 feet. I mean, there's no way in the world. So if you got that one reevaluated, since it's a subpart of the whole, you have to if you had the logic and the science to evaluate that one, you now open up the whole in-stream flow rule. They cannot, I don't think, do something separate with that part without reevaluating the total. But that's for lawyers.
It's really evident that you all have spent hundreds, if can combine, probably more than thousands of hours, it seems like, in what you come up with to share with us today. So on behalf of everybody else in the room, I just want to say thank you, because that education doesn't come free. It might have been free for us to be here tonight, but what you guys have invested out of your lives. So for that, I say thank you very much. Gentlemen, I have a question. It seems that you're laying out a scenario where it's death by 1,000 cuts. Is it healing by 1,000 cuts? I mean, healing by 1,000 Band-Aids? I mean, how do we, Zach kind of closed with a few thoughts about what you do next. What really are the next steps in your guys' opinions? And I know you come from this from different points of view, so a few thoughts about that would be helpful.
You know where I would go, where we would go then. We tried to do it then. We tried to ask the county or some legislature to give us the money to do a proper study. The expert in the world, Dr. Carl Walters, told us, you start this process with a population dynamic study over time, all the way to the beginning of the harvest, which the dates I gave you. So you put it all on paper, and we've spent millions and billions. We need to have data that shows and decouple the connection that goes to the federal government, gets the Endangered Species Act. They told us in Olympia. We won in Olympia in 02 and 03 when we had House Bill 1418 and 1420 passed. We went 9 times, and everybody says you won't do it. We went through 96 to zip in favor in the House, and I think 46-4 in the Senate. And we did that because the word tidegate did not exist in the RCWs of the state of Washington under drainage districts, and it didn't exist in Title 77 for dams. And they said, it is a take. And we said, no, it's not. It's a one-way check valve. It's not a dam, it's nothing. It's not defined. We got it defined. But now there will be no self-regulating tide gates in drainage systems. So we made a difference, we won. And you have to do them one at a time. But to decouple that, you have to have the data of a study. I've talked to Carl, he's partly retired, and when I made contact with him in November, he was going to Florida. His partner, Dr., it slips my mind right now, from the University of Washington that's done the studies. I can find that in a minute. He says they'll do it. They need to come up here and meet with us. I committed in the county office $5,000 personally to start the study. I think that would do it. That's my opinion. Because you have to go up to the federal level. That's where their horsepower is. They told us in Olympia, the tribes told us, we'll see you at the federal level. It took them 10 years, but they did. They're very patient. They went up, and they're coming back. Everything is being hooked to it.
I think death by 1,000 cuts is probably a very good analogy. As far as how we fix it, the first legal action taken by the Department of Ecology that I'm aware of in this issue was in the Methow Valley. They picked a small area, relatively isolated, outside the Methow Valley. Nobody really knew what was going on. There was a the local newspaper has about a 1,200 circulation, and I'm probably one of 5 or 6 people outside the Methow Valley that subscribe to that local newspaper. But it's, they went in and they started attacking. The first thing they did is they sued, saying that we are the Department of Ecology. We have the right to regulate this water. The irrigation district turned around and went back and said, no, these are our water rights. We filed for them. We have senior water rights. It went all the way to the state Supreme Court, and the irrigation district won. At that point, Ecology changed their tactics, and they started suing based on the Endangered Species Act. And I think they learned in the Methow. Then they went down to the Yakima. They've gone up into the Wenatchee. They're spreading out. We have to come together, not just all of us here in the Skagit Valley, but statewide. And it's going to take a statewide solution. There was a bill in the legislature, I believe about 3 years ago, and I don't remember the bill number, I'm not as good as John, but that bill would have required government agencies to use sound, peer-reviewed science prior to enacting any regulations. That bill fixes this problem. For the most part, that bill fixes this problem. That bill passed 47-2 in the Washington State Senate. We couldn't get a vote for it in the House of Representatives. Frank Chop sat on it, and it never even got assigned to a committee in the State House of Representatives. It just died. Of the two, one of the no votes represents a good part of Skagit County. That's State Senator Kevin Ranker. He's not here today. He's not your friend. Trust me, he's not your friend. But I think there's a potential for a statewide solution with the legislature and the governor we have today. I think it's unlikely that we're going to see it. And we may see a judicial, some attempts anyway, at statewide solutions through the judiciary. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Thank you, Jason.
My name is Jack Arrington. I live in Anacortes. We got a lot of water over there, so if you ever want some, just go talk to the city council, and I'm sure they'll give you everything. The problem that I see, and you guys all did yeoman jobs tonight. I didn't hear anything that I haven't heard before, but I certainly heard it in a lot more detail. But the problem is not ecology. The problem is the fact that we have allowed our government to go amok. We allow our representatives to go out and promise us the world, tell us all the good stories, and then they get into office and they immediately begin doing whatever they want to do to get reelected. And that goes for the good guys, whichever party that may be for you, and it also goes for the bad guys. We had a situation at our last CAPER meeting where one of our representatives, who I consider a good guy, admitted that he voted for something that not a single person in that room supported. And that vote for that person, that's something that they voted for, was for something that was totally against the Constitution and the laws of this land and this state. And yet, because it felt good, that representative voted for something. We see it at the county level, we see it at the state level, we see it at the city council levels. We see politicians who come to us and talk to us about the things they're going to do for us, and as soon as they get in office, they start doing things for themselves. We need to start demanding that when we vote for somebody, that they do what they say they will do, and then not vote for them again if they don't do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for doing what you're doing. Everybody's a little bit helps, but I'm kind of a person that tries to come out of something like this with an idea, something that we can do. And from what I hear is water isn't the problem. That the problem is the government. And if our problem is the government, we need to get more people involved. There's a lot of people here tonight, and it's great to see this many show up. But to me, what seems like would make even more people show up is the old trick of increasing taxes. It just seems to get people's attention. If they know their taxes are going to go up, and they know they're going to go up dramatically, they get interested. And what I was thinking is, one of you guys was talking about in Snohomish County, they had just gone out front and said, look, we'll take all these properties, in our case of Skagit County, let's take these 6,000 properties, devalue them by 80%. And what I don't know, and what I think would be interesting for the public to know, is if Skagit County did that, what would be the percentage of increase in my taxes and your taxes? Because that makes it easy. If you're paying $500 a month and it goes up 10%, it's easy to do the math. And I think it'd terrify people if they knew how much that really was. Thanks.
Yeah, I think I found that in Snohomish County, in dealing with the moratorium, a small minority of homes were affected by it, our land. And when they dropped it, there was like 300 in Skagit and 75 in Snohomish, whatever it was. Everyone I heard from was Snohomish.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. And
Yeah.
that's why the county needs to act and change things, because that will get people fired up.
And so maybe this news of what was talked about here tonight can get around, and I don't know who's the best person to come up with a rounded number that would say, in general, everyone's that's still paying taxes on their lot, it's going to go up 5% or 10% or whatever it is, 20%. Who knows? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I hate doing this, but you deserve it, and I'll tell you why. My name is Pearl Rains Hewitt, and I drove over here from Port Angeles, Washington, where 2 years ago I stood up in front of 120 people, just like you, and I said, I have to tell you about the Department of Ecology. In Skagit Valley, there are 6,000 people who have no water. Now, the Department of Ecology came to Clallam County and said, have we got a deal for you on the Dungeness River? And it is called the Dungeness Water Rule. Now, if you want to know, and I told those people, and they were horrified, and my name was in the newspaper. I said, ecology sucks. And everybody clapped their hands, and they were really happy. Okay. So Now, we were forced by our commissioners to accept the Washington State Water Trust. It's a hell of a deal, too. You trust them after you buy your water from them. I'm a trustee. I know that I have beneficiaries, and legally I'm supposed to take care of them. The Water Trust does not consider any water holder to be a beneficiary. All of that water goes for restoration. It doesn't come back to our people. If you want to be dismayed and find out how bad it is when you mitigate and get a hell of a deal from the DOE, you go online and you look at it. For $1,000, you can buy 150 gallons of water a day for your whole family, for indoor use only. So if you have a 20-acre farm, Ecology has a plan. Go in your house, put in 2-minute showers for your kids, and you get 150 gallons of water a day, and that's for your family. Now, the lady that explained it, somebody said, well, there's going to be those bad people. They're going to be watering their dog outside or watering a plant. Or they might even go outside and have a little lawn. Well, we're going to check up on them, and you can report your neighbors if you see them doing outside water. Now, it's much worse. It is much, much, much worse than you can even begin to imagine. Okay, so somebody said, well, what if I want to have a horse or cattle or chickens? So piecemeal, all this, pardon the expression, crap keeps coming in. Well, let's see, you can water the plants, hanging plants on your deck. That's considered indoor. But if you want to have outdoor water, they've got a plan. Well, how much do you want to water? Do you want to water this size of a room? Okay, well, we'll make you another deal. Don't quote me on the prices. They keep changing. For $1,500, we'll let you have 150 gallons of indoor use, and you can go out and you can water this area. And then somebody said, well, what about our animals? What about stock? What if we want to have a chicken or a horse or on our own property on a 20-acre farm? Okay, well, that's another damn good deal they've got for you. You mitigate for it. It's not a big success in our area. People are not very thrilled with it. I have a website. Just so that you know I'm not just some space cadet, I was the guest speaker for CAPER at the King County chapter last month. And it wasn't about water. It was about the wild Olympics, the wilderness. You know, we crazy people who would rather hug a logger than a tree. And I've done, there are several of us, you know, over on the peninsula. Anyway, and so I do, they also featured my website. It's called behindmyback.org. But if you want to, just type in Ecology Sucks. And on Google, it will say, Behind My Back, Ecology Sucks. And that's my website. And so I warned my people in my town, in my area where I was born, and our family has lived there for over 90 years. And I warned them about what happened to you, and now I came here to warn you about what's happening to them. And I think that that's perfectly fair.
Yes. Thank you very much. The water trust agreement that she's talking about is what Ecology is using to destroy irrigation districts in eastern Washington. That is their tool. They also call it water banking. It is, it's terrible. It's already been implemented to a certain extent in the Yakima Valley. They're trying to force it into the Matthow. They're trying to force it into the Wenatchee. They've had a 25-year fight in the Matthow. I think they were really surprised at how much those farmers stood up and fought back. And they're running into the same thing now in the Wenatchee. But that is another legislatively authorized program that we really need to take a good, serious look at. Diane.
Good evening. My name is Diane Freethy. I'm the president of Skagit Citizens Alliance for Rural Preservation. Our organization started fighting with ecology about 12 years ago. I guess you know why I'm here. We didn't win. I do want to say one thing to these gentlemen here. They just put on a totally, it's really outrageous. I couldn't believe you were telling us all this stuff. You guys have really done your homework. And why do I know that?
Because you've done it too.
I know that because, among other things, I spent 5.5 years on the, sorry, can you not hear me? I spent 5.5 years on the Skagit River Water Resources Advisory Committee here in this county. And during that time, we were working partners with the Department of Ecology. I use that term partners lightly, very lightly. I'm not going to go into any details, only to say that every time we gave them our advice, which is what we were supposed to do, they usually just did the opposite. And talking about math, they have no idea how much water is in that river. And they will never know until they start processing the water rights applications that have been sitting on their books for over 20 years. Department of Ecology is totally corrupt, and if they're not corrupt, they're incompetent. Every single person to the T. I was really annoyed when the new director came up here right after the State Supreme Court ruling. He introduced himself to us Skagit people. That really made him pretty popular. So I guess I don't want to. I could stand here all night and tell you a different story. It's just dreadful. So what we are proposing is that we get together, not just here in Skagit County, but we could start it, and that is to talk to our legislators, convince them that they must divorce the Water Resources Department from the Department of Ecology and go back to 1970 when we had a Water Resources Department, a standalone department with a publicly elected director that will be accountable to us, the people, we the people who own the water. I've passed out some draft resolutions that you can, there's a little green tag on them, they're on the back counter there. I hope you'll pick one up and read it and take it seriously. I think if we all stand together and get in touch with our legislators, we can make this happen. Thank you very much, and thank you again, gentlemen. Very good program.
I want to say thank you to the three of you for putting this together and for your organization for sponsoring this. My name's Sarah Hyatt, and I am neighbors with Zach and his vacant property in Snohomish County. There aren't very many of us, and I'll confess that I was not involved in this till just recently. And so it's been very difficult for people to get involved from Snohomish County. We're in the minority in this situation. And as I'm sitting here listening to this, it seems like this is a huge, pervasive problem. And it's like maybe every small community is kind of experiencing it, how it's affecting them. But when we stand here and we listen to this information that we've been given tonight, the reality of it is that it's broad and sweeping. And if we don't act on it collectively, we're not going to have any rights before we realize it. And so my husband and I own a construction company. We're civil contractors. I'm also involved with the Master Builders Association of King and Snohomish counties. And, you know, we have a lot of issues because we're mostly conservative and we face issues from the liberal people in this state trying to limit what we do. And so we have lobbyists that work for us, and that's the only way really that we achieve anything in our industry. And currently right now, because of DOE, we're facing a ruling that is going to eliminate vesting. And what I hear you talking about is that vesting is an issue in this situation also, and it's on a different issue, but it's still coming from DOE. And when a precedent is set, it's really hard to get it back. And I think that this issue that we're facing with DOE right now to eliminate vesting in anything in construction that has to do with an environmental aspect is huge. And I was just at a meeting recently. I've been for months trying to get the MBA behind this issue here so I can get some people in Snohomish and King County on this specific issue, and I haven't had any luck until just this last week. And I think these two issues are related, that if DOE can say there will not be any vesting with regard to permitting if an issue is environmental, and that ruling is held up. Right now, Snohomish County is appealing it, and King County, or I believe the city of Seattle and possibly Pierce County are going to get on the bandwagon. I think Skagit County would be a huge asset. If anybody here from Skagit County has heard about this and is possibly interested in getting on board, because if we are not able to be successful on appeal, I don't know why any of your solutions couldn't be overturned in the future if it's found that there doesn't need to be vesting in an issue that impacts the environment. So although it just seems incomprehensible to us that we don't have right to water, that there isn't going to be a reasonable solution, it's entirely possible that that's the way it's going to turn out. And so I think for several reasons, I applaud all of you for being here. I'm sorry I'm so late to the game, and I'm hoping that we can really motivate our community and together with other communities and other organizations to actually get some traction behind this and to do something about it. Because with what I see happening, you know, laterally, I think we're at real risk of losing our rights. So I'd like to invite you, if you could come. I've just recently found someone within the MBA that's very concerned about this issue and would like to bring it up at a meeting next month. So if you guys, you know, are willing, we might have one more legislative body to get involved in this.
My name's Wiley Clark, and I'm from Anacortes. I belong to two organizations that I think really do a lot of good on the property rights situation here in Skagit County and the state of Washington. One is CAPER, and one is the Washington, well, it's called the Freedom Foundation. And they've got, and both of these outfits are bipartisan. You can be right, or you can be left, and belong to either one of them. Both of them do a lot of good on this, and I think down the road, we need to get those two organizations more hooked up than they are now, because we handle, CAPER handles 14 counties here in the state, and there's 39. But the Freedom Foundation is covering pretty much the whole state, and they do their lobbying down in Olympia. So we need to get hooked up with somebody like them on this kind of a problem and see if we can't take it to the next step in Olympia. And thank you, gentlemen, for a wonderful presentation this evening.
I'm Kyle Brown, born and raised in Birdsview my whole life. One thing I would disagree that was said, Mike, is this is not so much 1,000 cuts. To me, this is more like a guillotine, to be honest. I'm a landowner. I own multiple properties in Skagit County. And I was an ex-builder before I got into real estate. And so I understand the laws of starting to build to where we are now. And just to kind of give you guys a little background, I've been working with these guys for a while. I put in on, November, myself and another guy put in for a Republic's records request to get the list of just more or less 500 homes. So we could send out letters to them to let people know what was going on from Skagit County. Took me 4 months. You know how I sat down with them, got a list put together, or sat down, filled it out exactly how they wanted it. 4 months later, I got a list with 30 names on it. 30, or not names, parcel numbers. 30 parcel numbers. I went in, sat down with one of our county commissioners. May have lost my temper a little bit with that. Sat there for 4 months that way. Sat down with me, said, hey, why don't you go talk to somebody? I know all the people that work there. Go in, sit with a different person, fill in 3 words on the end of my request. List same, I guess it would be more. List same as DOE. Within 1 hour, I got the full list. So if you guys really think that it's just going to be DOE, it's just going to be this. Skagit County, is part of this problem. We have to start where the problem starts as well. We got to get our Skagit County to come on board with us. They can't keep playing this third party, oh, we're not involved. As long as I remember when I got my building permit, I proved my water. I had my water right, junior water right, which is amazing to me. I sat down with the commissioner again, had a permit from 2003, had a permit from 98, my house, my brother's house. Said, you show me anywhere on my paperwork where it says junior water right. Identical paperwork after the 2001 ruling, right? So it should have been different. You go into the Skagit County right now, there's an article that long on the end of your permit saying, we're not giving you the right to attach to your well, this, that, and that. You can drill a well, you just can't touch it. That's awesome. We'll collect your money, but you can't use it. So from my perspective, and I've talked to these guys about it too, is we got to start small. We got to get our local government, who we pay them to be our officials, to stand up for us in our corner. When I got my water right, they give me, if I don't have a water right, I have a legal building permit. I should have never been able to build my home. I never had right to touch the water. So why did I get a permit? Guess what? Skagit County just got involved. Because now I just spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of somebody else's money from a bank. Those banks start getting wind of this stuff, it's going to be a whole different issue. Because they're not going to just be fighting you, me, and these guys up here. They're going to be dealing with some big boys. They're going to be dealing with Wells Fargo's. They're going to be dealing with Bank of America's. So what we have to do is we got to get our 3 county commissioners, and I'm not saying they're not on our side, we got to get everybody else in those offices to come to our side. Step up to the plate. Take a little responsibility in the situation. I know you're an elected official. You weren't there when this was going on. But at the same time, when we elected you, you take all the crap in front of you as well. And you know that as well as I do. And that's all I'm saying, guys, is at this point, we just got to step back. Because one day I sat down at my house, and if you ever saw my thing on Facebook, I kind of go through all the numbers. And I'm a numbers guy, and I'm a chart guy. When I sat down, I put a $sign on one side, and I put control on the other side. Where does every part of this equation fall on one of those 2 sides? You have DOE. DOE is going to be more towards the money side. Because guess what? Right now, they're saying these collection systems right here, just so you know, if any of you guys are trying to get a permit for that, stop it now. It's a waste of money. We already had one person going for this. Tribe's going to fight it all the way. What is a river? It is surface water. First thing to serve water is your rain. First thing that's going to be the river, what are they going to say? Not going to happen. That is the first thing. If they're fighting you pulling water out of 100 feet down, are they going to fight you taking it off the surface? Absolutely. So right now, just can't channel that one. What we have going on right now is there's a mitigation plan going on, and I just talked to one of our DOE officials. The newest one we've been hearing about is they're talking about putting one, like you're talking about, above Baker Lake Dam. Makes a lot of sense. So we're going to retain water behind a dam release it into the dam, retain it there, then we're gonna put it down the river. Makes sense. As far as I know, isn't that what Baker, Diablo, all the dams we have, Shannon, that's what they're doing already. So just for I appreciate everything you guys do, and I've been trying to help as much as possible. For everybody sitting in this room, just start telling your friends. Tell anybody you know. They may not be affected directly like some of us are, but at the same time, everybody in Skagit County needs to know, everybody in the state of Washington, otherwise we're gonna be sitting like Mike is right there in 17 years saying, here we are again. So just tell everybody, guys. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Well, I'm gonna mention something real quick that Kyle said about rain catchment. About 2 years ago, when the moratorium took effect, they released a letter about rain catchment that had said, we don't monitor, approve, et cetera, these systems yet, but we reserve the right to and plan to in the future. And he's exactly right that the tribes are unwilling to come forward and say right now that that's an approved source. So they may talk that rain catchment is okay. I may have put it up there, but it is not an approved source. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you could also, we're looking at, just a second, Ed, sorry. This is an election year. You're going to have a lot of candidates around in various situations. We have 3 in this room tonight. We have a couple elected officials in this room tonight. When the candidates come out and they're in your neighborhood, or you hear about an event where they're going to be at, go down there to them. And it doesn't matter what office they're from. Doesn't matter what they're running for. Go down and make them understand that this is an important issue. Make them understand. When our legislative candidates and our county commissioner candidates are out going around, they need to walk away from your meeting with the understanding that water is the most important issue in Washington State today. And that's the only way we're going to get a solution. That's the only way that I see us getting a solution anyway.
My name is Ed Stauffer. I've been in Skagit County since 1972. I know I don't look old enough, but I'm the first water quality chemist field sampler ever to be hired by the State of Oregon Department of Environmental Quality. I've been doing water quality for a long time. I chose my rural property in Skagit County largely based on water availability. I, even back in 1972, had a high school buddy, attorney friend of mine, who, before he was an attorney, was the state championship in lightweight wrestling. And I figured he was a good man for the job, researched the property, and when it came to the water issues in Skagit County, he said, you have no problem. They have a program there called exempt wells for private property owners. I didn't realize that I had to do something about that was at risk until as a homeowner, and now with the children in my home. I signed up to be on the Growth Management Act Rural Element Citizens Advisory Committee in 1992. And we wrote the rural element, and it's still a law of the land. You should read it someday. I haven't found anybody in Skagit County that's read it. Seriously. They'll tell you at the county and in most bureaucratic agencies of government, if an employee has not been there for more than 2 years, that employee, that department, does not know what the laws are and what your rights are. So that leaves us to speak. The ink was still wet on the Growth Management Act plan that we adopted in 1996 after 4 years of effort of you and I. The people in this room and the other property owners and taxpayers of Skagit County just like us. We're just like the guys from Skagit County that got together and rode the horses in the middle of the night in bad weather down to Olympia or wherever the state capitol was, and managed to separate us from Whatcom County because they felt we were being improperly taxed with no benefits. It's the same process. So you'll see somebody like these 3 gentlemen, somebody like me, somebody like Roger Mitchell, somebody like Diane Freethy, who's been spending the last 10, 12, 15, 20, 30, and sometimes it goes back many generations to pioneer families, trying to work through these issues under what we see as Americans as our duty under the Constitution of the United States to take an active role in forming what we want our government to do. It's gotten so bad that I get up and I read the Declaration of Independence in public meetings sometimes. The county commissioners give each of us a chance every Tuesday morning to go on TV. I hear at the county, and I hear amongst my friends, oh, the public is apathetic. That's why you're here tonight. Stop and think for a moment what happened here. What were you told about being an American has happened to us. Did you hear? Our constitutional rights have been denied. We've been slapped in the face with it. It happened. For years, each of us that have been following, I was at the very first meeting that Ecology called, telling the people in Skagit County, you must have a committee to divide up the water. That was in 1995. I went to all those meetings. I got up and I testified. Diane Friede can tell you horror stories, and I can tell you horror stories about her horror stories. And you wind up feeling at night like there's creepy people off in the bushes that are lurking to come out and cut your throat. You feel like you're in a third world country. But you say, no, this is a country that's owned by the people. We have due process here. It's my job to stand up and say what I think, and I have to be an informed electorate. It's damn difficult to be informed about what's really going on. On April the 7th this year, I was given a ride down to Sumner, Washington. You know where that is? Yeah. I think it's in Pierce County. There was a clam bake going on down there. It was called the Washington State Senate Government Operations and Energy, Environment, and Telecommunication Committee joint session. They had called in the Department of Ecology. The dais was just full of politicians and elected officials. The chair was Pam Roach. They called the representative from the Department of Ecology in front of them, and she spent over an hour asking pertinent questions like you heard tonight. And at the end of that questioning, Senator Roach made the comment that chilled me to the bone. She said, from your inability to answer even the most basic of our questions about the behavior of the Department of Ecology, I can only conclude that your entire agency is arbitrary and capricious. So I go to all these meetings, I get up and I testify, I make my elected officials mad at me because I'm a squeaky wheel. I talk to my neighbors about what's happening to them and to us until their eyes glaze over. And I do it year after year after year until Roger Mitchell finally looks at me after another testimony at a public hearing in front of the government, and he says, Ed, he said, have you noticed that we keep doing this over and over and over, always expecting a different result? This is insanity. What I hear at the end of all of my efforts trying to spread information is I see the eyes light up. I could see it in this room right now. And the question is, but what shall I do? Now, I've been in it too long. I'm too emotionally involved to give you any of my ideas of what you should do.